Hey, good evening, Internet. It's me, DP Knudten, for another exciting edition of BOOKWARD BOUND. My 301-day journey from I should really do this to done. And what is that done? That done is the creation of a brand new book by January 1st, 2021 that will be uploaded on the actual 1st of January in the form of press-ready PDF files to Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing platform, where I will be self-publishing a brand new book called, and you've already seen it right there, NONFICTION BRAND, Discovering, Crafting, and Communicating the Completely True, Completely You brand you already are. So that's what the book cover looks like, because I've already designed it. Because just like any good writer, I procrastinated writing and instead designed the book cover. So that's the way I roll, unfortunately. But that's also the reason why I wanted to make a commitment to you to do this live every single night for 301 consecutive days in order to make sure I actually get this thing done. And thankfully, so far, it's working. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to actually look it up. YouTube, I think tonight is episode 131. I thought it was episode 130 last night, but actually last night I think was episode 130. So let's just double check that. Videos and live last night was episode 130. There you go. So in fact, tonight is episode 131. And that's very important because I only have 301 days to get this book finished. And that's why I'm here. And that's why you're helping me. And I really appreciate the help. So what are we going to do tonight? Well, that's a really good question. I think what I'm going to do is continue working on the section I've worked over the past couple nights, because frankly, it's been a bit of a pain. Because I'm touching on areas of myself which are not necessarily comfortable. And that is the fact that through my career, I've believed that my work speaks for itself, that people will recognize that I am capable at what I'm doing, and that they will give me credit for that. Well, guess what? That's not the way things work. If you want to actually receive the kudos you deserve, sometimes you need to take credit for things in a very big way. And that's what personal branding is all about. And so I'm going to kick this on over to Scrivener, the application that I'm using to actually write this book. And you can see it right here. In the big window, that's where you write the book. On the side, that's where you write the book. On the side over here, these are the sections of the book, or chapters, depending on how you want to look at it. C'est la vie. And in this case, c'est la hertz. All right, so this whole section is about this concept I call your X years. And a lot of people in their 20s won't understand what this is about, but anyone like me over the age of 50 will absolutely understand it, where you're experienced, you're excellent at what you do, you're expensive because you've earned it, and then you're expendable because, frankly, things happen. Things like economic turndown, the loss of a client, or, as we're all facing right now, a global pandemic. The fact is, the time to be building your personal brand is not when the sun is shining, or actually is not when the rain is coming down and the COVID is hitting everybody. It's well in advance of that, when the sun is in fact shining. So this whole section is about that. And last night, I got to the point where I think it's done, but I want to read through it again because I think I need to really be very clear in making this point. So, up at the top, I'm going to read it aloud because that's the way I actually edit and proof my copy is I read it aloud. There are a couple reasons for this. One of the most important is I like my copy to be very verbal, to be very vocal. Consequently, I want to write in sentences that are delimited by the amount of words you can say within one human breath. Do you see how I just did that right there? Unlike some writers who like run-on sentences forever, I believe that people are literally biologically attuned to the rhythms, the human rhythms that are encoded in the copy or writing that you write. Consequently, we all know when someone is writing too long because we want to take a breath. And sometimes that breath is a comma, and sometimes it's a hard period. But the whole point is that it's very vocal in style. And certainly my writing style is exactly that. It goes all the way back to the days when I was an actor. And, you know, good playwrights don't write novels. They write plays. Why? Because the actual stuff they write plays on stage. It actually works on stage. I guess I've got more playwright in me than novelist, but anyway, that means I'm going to be reading you this section aloud as I look for areas where things are a little bit jumpy, bumpy, you know, kind of, it doesn't flow correctly. That's the way I find out if the copy works or not. So let's get started. Your X years are coming. The strength of your interest in reading this section is probably going to be directly correlated with your age. Why? Because some of you are going to resonate with its main theme from the very first sentence, but others, especially those early in their careers, it might seem some kind of eat your vegetables fatherly admonition. But whatever your age or experience today, the facts and circumstances presented here are coming at you like a freight train. It's just that for some of us, more experienced folk, the train isn't just some distant horn at midnight, but a blinding light that's bearing down at life and career-threatening speeds. So much of this book is based not just on Tom Peters' brilliant idea, but on your author's personal experience. And some of that experience ain't so pretty. My father used to say far too often that if there was a hard way to do something, I'd find it. He wasn't wrong about that either. After 3 decades working in the creative minds of advertising, I've learned a couple of hard truths that I've written about extensively here. But the hardest of hard truths comes down to one simple phrase. If you don't own it, it's not yours. While I don't want to go all therapy on you, I think my experience is instructive and completely not unique. I have a feeling that some of the people reading this book of a certain age are going to have experienced a lot of the same things, but in different ways. And for those of you younger than a certain age, feel free to learn by bad example. I'm talking about being so successful that you not only make it to your X years, but blow the doors off them completely. What are the X years? The stage in your career when you're unquestionably experienced, demonstrably excellent at what you do, justifiably expensive, and therefore immediately expendable. There comes a time right at the peak of your career when you are really on fire. After years climbing the ladder, getting more experience and compensation at every step up, there will come a point where if you don't own it, it's not yours baseball bat comes swinging right for your forehead. You're tremendously experienced, excellent at what you do, as your pay rate can attest, and all of a sudden, too expensive for the company that you don't own. In a situation like that, all it takes is a lost client, weak economy, or global pandemic, and you're being politely walked out the door. And it makes economic sense, too. Why let 2 or 3 cheaper folks go when you can just get rid of the biggest salary in the payroll? That's happened to me twice. And it took me 2 hits from the it's not yours baseball bat to finally, there's an extra space there, learn the lesson. But I did. For years, I worked more or less anonymously behind the walls of the agency, creating the work that attracted clients, converted customers, and raised awareness for a wide variety of brands, except the most important one, my own. Sure, the clients I worked with most close. Let me say that again. Sure, the clients I worked with most closely as copywriter and creative director knew and respected me, but none of them quit the agency when the agency quit me. It's a hard pill to swallow when you think only you could deliver the kind of work the client wanted, then to discover that was not, in fact, the case. But that's the power of branding. The client was buying the agency brand over yours, and why not when they had no idea what your brand actually was and still is? Such things can happen fast. Let's make that. Such things can happen fast with absolutely no warning. In my case, it went something like this. The agency owner, account management side, and I, creative side, were in Cleveland for a new business meeting and had a few hours to kill. So what do you do in CLE when you to waste a little time? Head on over to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. While there, we had a great time checking out the exhibits and seeing up close some of the artifacts that created our favorite songs. A highlight for me, seeing Jeff Beck's original battle-scarred white Fender Telecaster. Very cool. One of the must-get-a-photo landmarks in the museum is Ringo Starr's original Ludwig kick drum with the hand-painted The Beatles logo on the front. If you're old enough to remember the first Beatles 45 RPM single, 45 RPM needs a dash, you ever heard Like It Was Yesterday? For me, it was She Loves You. She Loves You. Played in circa 1966 at Bert Smith's house in Valparaiso, Indiana. Just being so close to that Rosetta Stone of rock and roll was thrilling. I can still remember exactly how I felt when I heard She Loves You for the first time. Oh, to be that young. Since I was with my boss, I offered to take a photo of her in front of the display and began to do so. A very kind lady nearby offered to take a picture of both of us since she assumed that we were a couple. I said, "Oh, no thanks, she's my boss," just as she said, "That's okay, we own an agency together." We had never officially talked about such an arrangement, but we both knew we were working in that direction. With me being a believer of the work speaks for itself, I thought that's what the work was saying, and it appeared we both agreed. Imagine my surprise when I think it was actually 5 months later. 5 months later, the apparent agreement disappeared in the space of a single video call when I was introduced to the principals of an agency that were merging with the one I had been working toward owning for several years. No notice, no hint that such a thing might have been in the works, and no more need of my services. That Cleveland trip was in June, and that don't let the door hit you on the way out blindside was in November. C'est la vie, and in this case, c'est la hurts. But guess what? I didn't own the agency, and it clearly wasn't mine. I'm going to hit that with italics. The only ones who benefit from your lack of personal brand are everybody. I'm going to say not your competitors, everybody but you. Are everybody, not you. The only ones who benefit from your lack of a personal brand are everybody, not you. Everyone. As I write this, I feel incredibly uncomfortable. Coming from the American Midwest, it's hard to talk about failure. But that's exactly what the first 20 years of my professional career were. I'm going to say 25 years. 25 were when it comes to creating a personal brand. Like the shoemaker's children, I went barefoot for decades. I went brand barefoot. Ooh, I like that. I went brand personal brand, barefoot for decades. And only when I desperately needed shoes after being politely ushered out the door did I start creating the thing I read about in Tom Peters' 1997 Wired article. Yes, I had a professional reputation, but those who knew it, what it was were a very select, read small group. Read small group. But my general personal brand awareness was pathetic, and I had to immediately start doing something about it. Luckily, having worked on branding level stuff for everything from sugar water to plywood, I knew a thing or two about digging deep to discover the completely true brand foundations of a product or service. Every technique, process, system, and method used for the big international brands works equally well for your more personal one, so that's what I did for myself. It's not easy, but if you really care about telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth about you, the brand, I need to put some long dashes in there. The brand, the work is definitely worth it. And that's what this book is about, providing you with the tools and techniques necessary to dig deep into your already existing brand to discover the full truth, already existing, but probably ill-defined brand. To discover the full truth about who you are, what you do, and how you do it. In order to create a cogent and completely true story that attracts interest, spurs engagement, and ultimately grows relationships. Why? Because your X years are coming. I'm going to hit that with a bold. And the best time to prepare for them is now. Ooh, I like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and assign this a new icon, which is the blue flag for, I kind of think this is done. This whole section at 341 words is actually 3,041 divided by 300 equals 4.47 pages with, okay, so 5 pages with the shot of the drum kit up here of Ringo's Ludwig Beatles drum kit. Hold on, where is it? There we go. That's going to take up some room. So this whole section is going to be 5 pages, which is great. And if you look down here, Scrivener, I love this feature of Scrivener. Down at the bottom, it keeps a running tally for the number of words in the section. If you click on it, you'll also see more than that. If I go hit all of it and then hit it, I'm going to see everything about it. How many words, how many spaces. My average paragraph length is 53 words. My average sentence length is 16. And this kills me because I've been paying attention to this lately. My average sentence length is 15 or 16 words every single time. That kind of amazes me. But one of the other cool things is it gives you an average reading time. So you can read this section in 5 minutes and 21 seconds. That's a cool feature because that allows me to say, okay, I don't expect anyone to open this book and read it page after page after page from front cover to back cover. I expect people to dip in and out of it. And frankly, I'm writing that way so that people can take a few minutes, take that 5 minutes, take that 10 minutes and read a section and get something out of it. Like my goal for this specific section is to inspire people who might be, I don't need a personal brand, to at least think about it and go, oh, maybe I do, because I'm facing things very similar to what DP is talking about. Because here's the thing, if you aren't building a personal brand, you are in fact building a personal commodity. There are only 2 things in marketing: a commodity which is sold for the lowest possible price, and a brand that can be purchased at a premium. And I talk about this in the book, the difference between Android phones and iOS phones. Apple doesn't have the biggest market share, and yet it has 60%, 67% of the profit share in the smartphone market. And if you're asking me, I'd rather work smarter and make more money than have to work harder for less money. And that's what Android's doing. But I'm an Apple fanboy, so take that for what it's worth. All right, so this section I think is in good shape. And so I'm going to say good night for the evening. And of course, you've been watching Bookward Bound, my 301-day journey from I should really do this to done. And I'm actually doing it. This is episode 131 out of 301, which means, if I do the math, I have 170. I have 170 days left to go in getting this book done. And the beauty is, right now, because of the work I've done every single night for the past 131 days, I'm at least halfway done, which means the book is probably going to be done well in advance of that January 1st date. And I hope it is, because my ultimate goal, my unwritten goal, my heretofore unspoken goal, actually I've talked about it a little bit, is to create a companion workbook that goes with it. So people can get the book and they can get the workbook, which can help them create their personal brands as well. How cool would that be? Yeah, to have not just one book, but 2 books ready by January 1st, 2021. It's a pretty big, hairy, audacious goal, one of those BHAGs. Well, those are the goals that get done because you're working toward them every single time. And a lot of that is because of you. And so I want to say thank you so very much for making me, forcing me, twisting my arm, and forcing me to come down here and work on this book every single night for 131 consecutive days. But guess what? I'm not done. I'll be back tomorrow night for episode 132. Oh my God. As I continue to keep writing this book, because I'll be honest, I love you guys. I do. I love you very, very much. Oh, that and the fact that I want to get this damn thing done. So until then, I'm DP Knudten for the Nonfiction Brand podcast, which comes out every single Monday. And this episode this past week is with Jay Baer, B-A-E-R. He's fantastic. Check it out. All you have to do is go to wherever you get your podcasts for free and search Nonfiction Brand. You'll know you're at the right place when you see my smiling face doing this in black and white. And you'll see Nonfiction Brand, and you'll know that that's the right podcast. If you like the podcast, please give it a thumbs up, don't be afraid to subscribe to it. I would love for you to subscribe to it. Refer it to other people, but most of all, write a review wherever you get your podcasts for free, because that would be a great way for other people to find the podcast. And you'd be doing me a huge favor. So that's it for tonight. Until tomorrow, good night. Theme music, take us on out. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.